Hello. Good evening, everyone. We welcome you to Mumbai First event Governance Chronicles. I'll just be introducing our chairman, Mr. Narendra Nair, who will then be giving inaugural address, and then onwards we'll begin with the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Mumbai First, I have a great pleasure in welcoming you all here this evening. I'm particularly delighted panelists are here. I'm delighted Mr. Praveen Pardeshi has come from Delhi to join us. Mr. Premkumar, we worked with him when he was Chief Secretary. Thank you very much, Mr. Premkumar, for accepting our invitation. Shailesh, thank you for joining us. And Ms. Hamashu, okay, thank you for joining us this evening. This is a particularly important subject we're discussing is the governance of Mumbai. What has been happening in the last 75 years. So I thought to start with, I'll go back to see what was the scenario in 1947-50 in Mumbai at that time. So the first slide. At that time, the population of the city was 3 million people. And this is a typical picture of a VT station and that area, which compared to what we are today, where the traffic moved freely, people don't have to wait, and today we are in a completely different area. Why have we got here today? And what is happening in the last 75 years? I'm reminded of the words of Lord Mayor of the City of London, who was here some time ago. He said, when I go to places when I come to Mumbai, I think I've come to city of the past, not city of the present, but not city of the future. And when I go to Dubai or Singapore, those are the cities of the future. So what is it that set me thinking, what is happening, which is sort of bringing us to this situation here? Let me come back to the next slide to show you briefly. And these are some of these headlines I picked up on newspapers in the recent months. Mumbai is the second most polluted city in the world. I think the first one was Lahore, and this is the second one. First
is Beijing.
First is Beijing. But I think the last report came by last week. I saw it. This is Lahore.
They won't look at Lahore.
International city, okay, Beijing, yeah, that's right.
I'll show you the figure.
Well, another report in the newspaper says Amchi, Mumbai has the worst traffic jam in the city there. Also, the report come out, the time to address FSI triggered environmental disasters in the city. You see, the way we are going on in the building city here, there is going to have environmental disasters there. Sanjay Gandhi National Park is very much in the newspapers. We see what's happening there, or the trees are being cut. That's a subject which I'm going to discuss. They're not talking about race course relocation. So whatever our open spaces are there, they are being reduced, cut, changed around, not happening there. But we've been very much in Mumbai, Mumbai First have been very much involved with the city issue. Several years ago, together with the agreement of the then Chief Minister, we did a study to show how Mumbai could be transformed into a world-class city. Following that, we set up a very good, effective public-private partnership with the state government. Chief Secretary was involved, Municipal Commission was involved, we worked on it. When we commenced our journey years ago, we had no illusion that our task was going to be easy. But as we progress, we realize that the city has many good things, many opportunities, but equally there are many challenges. And one of the greatest challenges we found out, was the governance of the city. The city is governed by 17 different agencies. There are multiple agencies in the city, all headed by excellent managers. So I would say otherwise we've got opera, we've got excellent players in the opera, but there's no director or conductor. So we need a proper director or a conductor. Some time ago, with talking to the then Chief Minister, he set up a committee headed by Mr. Kale, and Mr. Kale was there, and Ramana Jha was there, and I think third person, the 3-member committee set up there. And they came out with a report, but I don't know what's happened to the report. It's probably lying somewhere else. They recommended there should be an elected mayor, but that is not going to be easily possible. So we're saying, look, you could have you should have a single point accountability. Let you call him a mayor, you call him a CEO, you call him anything. It doesn't matter. But as long as there's a person who knows that he's handling everything and he's accountable. You go to London, you go ask them who's responsible, London mayor is responsible. The police is under him, everything is under him. Similarly in New York, so other cities. So we need to have a single point accountability. I'm not saying you will have an elected mayor. It's the ideal solution, but it's not going to happen soon. So maybe you will have a CEO who is responsible, who commands respect, experience, and working out of the CMO. And that would probably would help out. But these are some of the issues that we could look at there. But anyway, I'm not going to discuss all these things here. I'm not here coming to talk about it. But we've got an excellent panelist here who we'd like to hear their views on what needs to be done, what could be done, and in this scenario, what could the city do? What could we do? What the citizens do? What could the government do? I talked about the FSI. There's a report there that the way the FSI is being given all over the place is for disaster happening. But I keep on often asking, has anybody done the carrying capacity of the city to see how much citizens can take it, how much traffic can be handled, how much water is there? But maybe let my esteemed panelists comment on that, and they will have some other idea. I'm not an expert on that. I'm only been involved with the city issues for some years in one way or another. So I'd like to, now with these words, I'd like to welcome you all and again thank my panelists for joining us. And I'd like to hand over to my colleagues Sanjay and Nandini, who will take forward the discussions further. Over to you.
Good evening to all, and thank you for joining us today. Over the last 2 months, over the last 2 months, we at Mumbai First have successfully organized 2 highly fruitful panel discussions. 1, the making of cultural metropolis. 2, is Mumbai still the economic powerhouse of India? As part of the Mumbai at 75 panel discussions. Through these discussions, the focus was to bring to the evolution of art, culture, and heritage of our city, and how over the years, this vast metropolis has risen to become the financial hub of our beloved country. In making of the cultural metropolis, we addressed how we, as responsible citizens and discerning authorities, must do what's necessary to preserve the culture, ethos, and literature of our ever-expanding but ancient metropolis, in the hope that one day it be deemed a UNESCO City of Literature and Heritage. Our second panel discussion, title is Mumbai Still the Economic Powerhouse of India. We addressed by 2040, Mumbai amongst 4 other Asian cities has enough potential to emerge as the working financial engine of the banking and financial center, and additionally, how we would work towards making Mumbai not only a domestic, but also a global competitor akin to international successes like Hong Kong and Dubai. Taking this initiative forward, we have organized the third and final panel discussion from the Mumbai at 75 series titled The Governance Chronicles. Through this discussion, we aim at focusing on various aspects of governance, such as infrastructure, public services, and citizen participation. Allow me to very briefly introduce our highly esteemed panel. Mr. Shailesh Haribhakti is the chairman of Haribhakti and Associates. Mr. Haribhakti is a chartered and cost accountant and a certified internal auditor, financial planner, and a fraud examiner. He is actively involved with several prominent financial institutes in India, including the NSE, CII, IMC, and the Associated Chambers of Commerce and Industry of India. He is a well-known thought leader in the Indian economy and public policy. He is an XTech, ESG, and an integrated reporting evangelist. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Praveen Pardeshi is the former Municipal Corporation MCGM Commissioner. Along with his work in the IS, Mr. Pardeshi has held several senior leadership positions in the United Nations as the global head of post-crisis recovery cluster, UN Development Program Geneva, and senior coordinator of UN International Strategy for Disaster Reduction. Most recently, he worked for the Defeat Non-Communicable Diseases Partnership under UN Institute of Training and Research as the Global Program Coordinator. And we all know of his contribution during the COVID-19 epidemic. Let me introduce you to the third panelist, Mr. R.M. Premkumar. He was a former Chief Secretary, Government of Maharashtra. He has served as the Chief Executive Officer of MIDC and Managing Director of Maharashtra Tourism Development Corporation. He was also the Development Commissioner of SEEPS project, Principal Secretary of Revenue for Government of Maharashtra, among others. Please join me in welcoming him. And Dr. Himanshu Murthy. He's Associate Professor, Center for Urban Science and Engineering, IIT Mumbai. Prior to this, he taught over 8 years at the School of Habitat Studies, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. He has a PhD in urban planning. He has practiced architecture in Mumbai and Goa and has also published extensively across the professional, popular, and academic press for over 25 years. Welcome, sir. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And before we proceed to the panel discussion, may I request each of you to briefly share your thoughts, maybe for 3 or 4 minutes, on Mumbai and its evolution of its governance. Given that Mumbai today is governed with multiple agencies, is there anything that you would like to highlight about how it is governed today and has evolved over the last 30 years? So, Mr. Pardeshi, over to you first.
Just before that, can you just set the context of governance and just give me just. So, Nadini, I'll just
Yes, sir.
just take a minute to just set the context on governance, because today's session is mostly about governance. But there are several issues about Mumbai, and we can probably spend days together and discuss about it, and we will not be able to reach any conclusions. So today's is very specific to governance. Now, one of the questions that we have is Mumbai just an accidental city that the way it is today, just by sheer force of accident, or was it designed to be what it is today? My personal answer is that it's probably just by accident. I don't know whether we evolved the fortunes of Mumbai in the present form today. But the aspect of governance, and which I'm sure Shailesh and everybody here would probably agree with me. So if at all you want to compare what governance is all about, it's basically systems and processes that manage the affairs of a city. The best, if you want to compare an ideal form of governance, then a human body is the most ideal form of governance. Because you have a brain, which is a central point of command. You have various organs, which are very specialized functions, but they also work with each other. It's not that hand works in total lack of coordination with a leg, the brain works in totally different coordination. All the organs work in perfect coordination. There's also decentralization. For example, if you touch something hot, without the brain giving you a signal, the hand will come back. So there's a decentralized authority that's available to the organs, right? And they all work in coordination. And the brain decides on the future where the body should go, right? And all the organs work in coordination in perfectly well-organized fashion, and then the human body functions exceptionally well, unless it falls ill. But most of the time, when you're healthy, you are able to function well. And here with these people out here, what we're trying to do is how a city can remain healthy to see that the body that we have, that governs Mumbai, is able to function well, right? So that structure of governance that drives Mumbai, what can be done about that, how it can be improved. So that's the initial set of comments which I would really request all the panelists to talk about. That Mumbai, I would say, is a successful city by all accounts as far as India is concerned. I'm not very sure internationally we can call ourselves a successful city. What works from a governance point of view for Mumbai and what doesn't work for it? But for that, I'm going to pause a little bit before you answer these questions. I know, Praveen, you have a small presentation for all of us. Maybe you should make that presentation first. Or Then you can come with the presentation? All right, fine. So just a quick round about Mumbai. First of all, do you agree that Mumbai is a successfully governed city? Yes, no, maybe, or you don't know? That's one question. Second is, what is it that works? Maybe in just point, and what doesn't work for Mumbai?
Perfect.
All right?
We can go around the panel.
Yes. Maybe you'd like to start, or you'd like somebody else to start first?
I'm okay either way.
Okay, you start. And just a quick round, right?
Yeah,
Rapid
sure.
fire.
So I'll just maybe we'll decide whether I was the right person to begin with, because my fundamental reflection on Mumbai's governance or the governance story is that there is a crisis of imagination, and it is a crisis of imagination related to what a good city ought to be, but it is not a crisis of imagination the way it is normally spelt out, which is that we are not able to imagine how to turn Mumbai into, say, maybe a discounted version of London or something else. That is the usual direction that we have kind of adopted from the very beginning. I mean, that's in our DNA, and I think it's been in many ways, a lot of our problems, not all, but a lot of our problems can be ascribed to this, I would say, colonized imagination about what a good city ought to be, that we still continue with, and which incidentally makes things worse because we have got into a habit of adopting solutions before we have defined the problems, because those solutions seem to work somewhere in a more aspirational setting. But if we have not defined our problems or not looked at what they are and the realities on the ground, the resources, opportunities, we are obviously going to have solutions or interventions that are going to make things worse, right? So I would just leave it there, saying
I'm
that...
I'm going to push you for an answer.
Sure.
Is Mumbai, according to you, a well-governed city? Yes, no? And what works, what doesn't work?
So it is known, it is in many ways among the better governed Indian cities, because I don't want to make the mistake of comparing Mumbai to a Singapore, which is not a real, society or a city in the sense that we want to aspire to as a democratic country, in my opinion. I will only compare it, so right now, with Indian cities, but perhaps going by the evidence on the ground in some other comparable global south conditions, maybe not as good as it can be, even for a global south city. What has gone wrong? I think you outlined the well-known parts of the fragmentation of say, responsibility and therefore power, etc., poor coordination. That story we know. But I think perhaps what has gone really wrong on one hand, which we don't talk about enough, is how we have made things worse for a large proportion of the population in the pursuit of trying to match up to some standards which I don't think are even relevant to us.
Shailesh.
Thank you, Sanjay, for setting the context, and thank you, Narendra, for that very good first two slides. They really set everything together. I hark back to 17 years ago when the only agenda at Indian Merchants Chamber, and Sanjay is witness to it, and so I think was Mr. Premkumar witness to it at Indian Merchants Chamber, along with Bombay Chamber and Bombay First at that time and Mumbai First now.
Makeover at the time.
Was the whole idea of getting Bombay to work and getting Bombay to become a better governed city. So you can all appreciate that we've been at it for almost 2 decades. And it is still work in progress. I'm very hopeful. I love this city. I've lived here all my life. So for me, Mumbai is everything. It has given me everything, and I'm aching to give it back to Mumbai in the best form that I can. I'm going to share 3 thoughts with this wonderful audience and with this extraordinary panel. The three thoughts are that today technology exists for us as citizens to take charge of the governance of our city. The onus has now fallen on us. And the reason why I say that is I saw an extraordinary video which has been put out in public domain by the CEO of the new city that is coming up just above the Red Sea, city called Neom in Saudi Arabia. And what the CEO has described is how do you make a city digital first? And what they have done is they've taken the sentiments, the aspirations, the problems, the things that have not worked, and converted it into a playbook of what can and must and will work. And that playbook, Sanjay, is available today to Mumbai city. So whoever we as citizens can put this playbook into the hands of, who will run with it, can through the retrofitting of what imagination, thinking, using your words, has gone into conceptualizing Neom, and they are executing it to at a pace which is frightening. And they've committed already that the next great skiing competition will be held in the heat of Saudi Arabia. So they can make that commitment because they know that they can execute to it. So that's the first point I'd like to make. The second point I'd like to make is that when I looked at the budget of the municipal corporation this year, I found that our key revenue source, is the compensation for forsaken duty that was earlier charged, the octroi that was charged. That is our key sense. And plus there is a little bit which comes in from the taxes that we levy on buildings in Mumbai and a few other revenue sources. And what the government of India and the entire ecosystem is crying out for is get fiscally prudent, raise money from global sources, raise green bonds. And so SEBI has come out yesterday with a concept paper, which all of us should sort of send our comments on what is definitionally a great ESG framework, which is what all lenders in the world will want to look at if they want to give Mumbai a green bond. And it is going to be very important for Mumbai to immediately take on the task of positioning itself at the highest end of ESG and what the SEBI framework is talking about, obtain a fantastic rating from one of the global rating agencies and go for this bond. So 3 things need to be done by Mumbai. 1, switch out from this whole idea of what new projects are to be worked on. Don't start anything new until whatever has been taken up today is fully finished and executed. It's all about execution. It's moved there. The second is disrupt education and healthcare. If your population is not well educated and we don't feel we have access to high quality health, nothing is going to work. No matter who is in control, no matter what great governance mechanisms we put in place, we need these 2 things as essential. And I'm saying just disrupt the speed of execution, education, and healthcare, and Mumbai will automatically be well governed. We have all the potential. I have no doubt, whatever we may call it today, in 5 years' time, this will be a future-ready city. Thank you. So I've answered your questions.
Your verdict on governance. So, what is your verdict on governance?
It's work in progress. And it is, we know what to do. We have a playbook, which has been, we can adapt that playbook. We know exactly how to do that. It's a question of who's going to run with that playbook.
Right.
That's
Yes.
what it is.
Okay. Now I have a slightly different refrain on the governance aspect of it. I was in government for almost 39 years and a year and a half as chief secretary. And one day after I retired, I asked myself as to who governs Mumbai. And I still haven't got an answer to that. I like to be a little anecdotal in the sense that when I was chief secretary, I couldn't watch any of the movies. So after I retired, I went with a vengeance to Inox and started watching movies. And one afternoon, it was in the month of July, raining all over the place. And then as I wanted to get into my car, I saw a lady with a little boy, and she had gone shopping in the shopping bag with her. She tried to get into a taxi and go to Churchgate, but the taxi driver said that no, it is too short a time, I won't take you to. So then another taxi came, same thing. Third went aside. So I said, this is too much, having been chief secretary. At least this is an opportunity for me to do some service at least. So because I didn't know what service I did as a bureaucrat at that time. So I got into the car and pretended as I was paging the police inspector. So he got sort of perturbed. So I made the lady sit there and hopefully she reached Churchgate, which I think she did. Now, at that particular point, who governed Mumbai? It was the taxi driver who governed Mumbai. And if you go ahead and extend the canvas, for instance, now have you ever got the pavement at Dadar or that Kabutar Khana and that area? Have you ever been able to walk into those pavements? That pavement now is belonged to the pavement dweller, whoever has those vendors who were there. So for you, when you go to Dadar and Kabutar Khana, those are the guys who govern Bombay at that particular moment of time. It doesn't end really there, because there are times when the formal institutions of government give way to informal groups of people who govern Mumbai. For instance, when there was that 25th July 2005 rains. At that time, I was chief secretary at that time, and I must say that it was, we had failed in the sense that we couldn't really do appropriately what the citizens wanted. A lot of people lost their lives as well. At that moment of time, when it rained, there were individuals, people coming out of their houses, giving biscuits to those guys who wanted to go to their home. So that hand of help which was given at that moment of time, those were the people who governed Mumbai at that particular moment of time. So when we think of government, we always think of the formality of what is the GDP of government, and nowadays, of course, it is GST, how much GST you collect and so on. Governance is not a mathematical equation of how much you gather, but for the citizen, governance is expectations. It is an equation of expectations, how much we expect. It is not just roti, kapada or makan. It is also beyond that into what they call the bipasa, that is the bijli, sadak, and what is the and pani, bijli, pani and sadak, which is something which, and beyond that pani, it is also padai now. Because knowledge has become so important that unless we are a knowledge, we should not be just a knowledge producing society, we need to be a knowledge sharing society, and consuming as well as a sharing society, which is so important. So these are some of the issues I thought I should flag at this moment of time. When you say who governs, it is still a question as to who governs the city. You have the formal government on the one side, but it is the informal people. So today, I would say that it is Mumbai. I have written here that that what moves Mumbai is its own motivation, as of today. very simply put. I mean, I just start the debate.
Oh, that's a
with
great
this.
insight. That's a very,
Yeah.
very good insight.
Yeah, it's just a different sort of.
Very,
Yeah. Praveen,
I think we heard some interesting observations, and I'm going to ask Mr. Pradeshi to speak. But before he says a few, we may want to show a few slides.
Yeah.
But before I think I'll like to read one, Mr. Ramana Jha, who was very actively associated with the city, actually associated with the formation of MCGM development plan, etc.
Yeah.
He's not here today, because he's out of town. But I like the letter he wrote to me some time ago, and he wrote, I'll quote from his letter. He says, if one were to go by recent homegrown choices made in Mumbai, a process has started that would catalyze the road to Mumbai's decline. A good question, open for discussion.
Before you start, Parveen, with the permission of all of you, I mean, I have written something which was that time given to me by ex-chief secretary, who ultimately happens to be Sanjay's late son-in-law, father-in-law, KB Srinivasan. I'll just read out what he gave it to me once when I was a junior officer at that time, about governance. He said, "It is all very simple, really. When I joined the service, the exuberance of youth prompted me to actually believe that I was making things happen. When I was halfway through my career, I began watching things happen. And when I was on the last leg of my journey, I often wondered if I knew what was happening." So this is what was
That's maturity,
given
I
to
guess.
me, and it still remains as it is now.
So no, I just it's good that I could speak at this point. So anyway, just to make it much more exciting, I wanted to say 3-4 things. One, almost everything that is said about FAR, I believe, is untrue. So let's say, what do you think is Mumbai's FSI? Any guess? Huh?
27 is what?
FSI? It's wrong.
Yeah.
1.5, but if you use all the measures, it reaches a weighted average of 3 across Mumbai. No. So 3 is the maximum. Anyway, there is a statistics, I'll just share it with you. It's 3, which is maximum. Any guess what is Shanghai's? 3. Any other guess?
15, 16 it must be.
15.
15.
So it's 15. New York? 15. Okay. Next, he said about trees. Any guess about what's the number of trees in Mumbai per head versus any other city in the world? From London to New York to Tokyo? It's higher than you can think of. So then we come to simply things like biodiversity. The total number of species, I'll just say it for myself, I'm quite an expert on, let's say, wildlife. Total number of wild species which live wildly in Mumbai is more. Probably only Nairobi has somewhere close to that, because Nairobi is out in there. No other city in the world. But no city has 15 million people. I'll come to the last point that you mentioned. Green bonds. What would be the interest of green bonds? Anything?
Today it's close to 6.5%.
Perfect. How much money do you think Mumbai puts in its bank accounts? What is the saving deposit of Mumbai today? Any guess? 50,000. Any other guess? Huh? 88,000. 88,000 crores. What's the interest on that? So what I'm going to tell you, I wanted to just start by saying that almost every resident who thinks well of Mumbai, to my mind, has almost all the issues factually incorrect. And that's the problem. It's not lack of imagination. Not at all. It's inability to grasp almost any of the real issues. Mumbai is where it is. I think to answer your question, it's one of the most well-governed cities in the world, and I'll tell you why. I've lived and worked across from London to New York. So I can say, compared to all of them, Mumbai rates very high. There's one problem with Mumbai, and that's not lack of a single, it's this sort of a group. Doing anything in Mumbai is first not a function of funds. So you talked about execution. It's nothing to do with the ability, and I'll show it. That's why I thought I'll just do a presentation, but I wanted to take on these issues. It's nothing to do with lack of execution capacity of Mumbai. Mumbai's execution capacity is as powerful as that of any Chinese agency, and I've seen how China works in Tajikistan and all these places. So it's not about execution capacity. It's not about resources. I just told you 88,000 crores. It's about us. We talk and ensure that there is no finality to anything that Mumbai ever decides. I just start with one example. He talked about Mumbai First. We talked about, okay, Mumbai needs an infrastructure boost. When I joined service, when servers, we were talking about a trans-harbor link. He was also in the Chief Secretary's office. I was there. That's 35 years ago. For 35 years, we worked and we talked. When a government started implementing it, there are at least 25 organizations which went to court and delayed it for the next 5 years. We talk about traffic. You think the traffic problem can be solved by widening the roads? How does London solve its traffic problem?
Stopping the cars from coming in central London.
No. Only mass public transport. Every city in the world. New York has an FSI of 15. You can reach New York anywhere to anywhere at any time. How do you do it? Simply because you have metro. Who goes to court to stop metro? Which part of the world? And we all support them, we talk to them. So basically, if we all do our jobs and don't interfere with everybody else's job, Mumbai would be what it deserves to be. One of the best governed cities, the most livable cities. And if we have another 10 minutes, I'd like to walk you through each of the complex issues that we are facing. From water to garbage to the fact of how Mumbai generates organic leadership. You see, the governance is about leadership. And how Mumbai generates that leadership is the key issue. So it does generate it, but we don't respect it. We think, sorry, but Mumbai First is not part of the problem. But there are X number of other organizations which are definitely part of the problem because they understand only this part, because that's what they are working. It's like you have a chauffeur who's driving your car and you suddenly see, oh, there's going to be a car coming. But if you just disturb the chauffeur, he's going to create an accident. All of us are driving our chauffeurs into continuous accidents. And we say, oh, he doesn't know how to drive. So this is the story of Mumbai. So I'll just take maybe I'll take 10 minutes. Can we go to the next one? So all of this we know. So the first thing is that the Municipal Corporation Act is very good, but unfortunately, Mumbai's governance is a very reactive. That is, the Municipal Commissioner is proactive, which is not right. Because he is the one who puts the proposal. The post standing committee can only react, say yes or no, and that's what happens. But all great cities, as you mentioned, have a directly elected. Even what's surprising is parliamentary democracies. UK has a directly elected mayor who owns, in a way, I'm using owns London in terms of its problems and in terms of its success. We don't have that. And the future visioning of Mumbai is not, again, let me come back to your, sorry about this, but it's interesting to talk about it, both about Dubai and about Saudi Arabia. If all of us decided to do that, we wouldn't stop at 2.5 degrees global climate change, we would stop at 4 degrees. What is fueling Dubai's expansion or Saudi Arabian neon cities expansion? Mined oil. If you create a ski resort in Saudi Arabia, the CO2 emissions of that is equal to 5 million people of India traveling across the train. So if you want to do it that way, yes, we'll create a world with only CO2. We shouldn't be having ski resorts in Saudi Arabia for sure. But anyway, there are many better things we can have out there. So, and this is the most important thing which Mumbai has also. It's slightly misdirected, which is a permanent civil society. You see, governments change. I'm no longer municipal commissioner. He's no longer chief secretary. But Mr. Narendra Nair and people like him are there as permanent placeholders for this city. Israel is today what Israel is, not because of the government of Israel. It's very interesting. Israel has a permanent civil society network which works across changing governments continuously on the same policies. So suppose Israel has decided that we want to only give drip irrigation for irrigation. No farmer, nobody can come up and say, no, this group of farmers doing very productive, let's increase his water quota. Doesn't work that way. That civil society group which is permanent across government, you're trying to build that through something like, but it needs to be strengthened. But it can't go down the unscientific way of saying, sorry, the way you put your first few slides, we are cutting trees. Where's the evidence? We are having too much of FSI being, I mean, Mumbai suffers because all of us make these types of statements. So next one. So let's see, you asked, Sanjay, you asked what are the successes and what are our failures of our governance. So this is the most important success, much against what you might think. Mumbai, even unlike British cities, is the most viable financial city in the whole world. Across UK, Sanjay and I know, central governments give grants to local governments. They raise taxes and they give, not for Mumbai. You'll go to a doctor in London and say, where have you studied? I studied in KE Medical College. Who paid for his education? Not the taxpayer of India. A taxpayer of Mumbai citizen paid for him. Because none of the medical colleges of Mumbai are paid for by state or they're paid for by the city. State government doesn't pay them. In fact, government of India and state government takes a percentage of the fees collected as its share for regulating the college. But it's self-sustained. And this is, no other city does it, not Delhi. So it's one of the most successful financially viable cities. And the reason why it's financially viable is not because it taxes people. That's the second thing. Mumbai doesn't tax. Mumbai has a surplus water budget, the only city in India and probably one of the only in the world, where the running cost of giving water is less than what it recovers from water tax. It's got a surplus of 1,000 crores a year on just the water budget. But where does it make its money from? From all the bad people. That is from speculative gain, not from taxation. So I have the figures here, so roughly around 8,000 crores come not from taxes. Almost everybody who's rich in Mumbai, beyond a point, is rich because he didn't become rich. Because he sat on a parcel of land which speculated away to wealth. Thankfully, there is one public body which is able to do it, and that's Mumbai Corporation. Its money comes from those guys who are speculating by levying development charges on them. So 8,000 crores of its annual budget doesn't come from the taxpayer. It comes from those who do speculative gain on properties through various development, additional charges of FSI and premiums, which is, any tax economist will say, it's not a tax on production. You see, a tax on production depresses production when you tax people. But this is not a tax because it's an unearned gain. So that's one of the hits, I would say. ALMs are a hit. Decentralized governance. You're absolutely wrong in terms of governance. I'm sorry, sir. I don't agree that Mumbai is not governed, and I'll show you something on that one. But you have to go into the deep recesses of Mumbai to find out how people get water, how people get the garbage cleared, and how people get education for those who can't go to private schools. So it's very good on all of those points. And why is that so? Because of the deep technical experience. Mumbai, whatever the British did, it had a good succession of municipal commissioners. The engineering strength of Mumbai Corporation is better than Central Public Works Department. I can say that absolutely without. It's better than the State Irrigation Department. And the reason why it's better is because while those jobs, it's not that individuals are better, but because these people have worked institutionally for 20, 30 years there. So they reside and own the institutional knowledge, unlike a road engineer or a irrigation engineer who gets transferred from one to the next, so he doesn't own projects in the way that a Mumbai engineer owns. And actually, Mumbai is one of the wildest, greenest city. There's no other city where you have mega predators like leopards who can live on wild as natural beings. And you don't have any city where you have 1 lakh flamingos inside the city, inside 2 wildlife sanctuaries. Next. So can you just play this? This is what I wanted to tell you about, and this is a true story. Yeah, you can put it there.
It's 31 slides.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll come back to this. This was very key. So where the misses are in terms of disasters, but that's because of climate change, and we are not climate proofing the city. So that's one big one. The second one is inflexible land rules. The reason why the land rules are inflexible is because of all of us, that we don't trust anyone. Everybody we think who's making a decision is making money out of it. So we freeze everybody into inaction, and we create rules which actually need to keep changing flexibly. All cities which succeed in the world, they are very flexible in terms of evolving to meet new situations. What do I mean by inflexibility? Look at the textile lands locked forever. The textile land should have become fintech by now. Like Canary Wharf is no longer a functional port in London. It's a fintech. But you see the FSIs, you take 20 years to make one change in the rules and negotiate with people. The city can't decide it. Look at BPT's land lying vacant. That should have been a new city which has all. So this is one thing. What's also thing is that we didn't expand beyond the, what makes Mumbai so great is the suburban rail, 70 lakh people traveling on that. But if you had kept pace with that on mass transport, you would have had less pollution, which we didn't do. And I just talked about this no finality of decisions. We keep questioning all the decisions on a continuous basis. Housing for all is a big skew. I would come back to your point that if you restrict FSI to 2 and 3, it's okay for us. We own flats. It's not okay for 70 lakh people who live in slums, because for them you're condemning with low FSI for them to live forever in slums. If you raise the FSI to 15, the people who get houses first are those people, and they deserve those houses.
I'm very much for that.
Yeah. So, and it's nothing to do with infrastructure. We'll just go on. We have all the water in the world. We have all the other things that can make it happen. So, next. So this is again the same issue. So I wanted to show what happened. Yeah. So you think it will work? So we'll use it. And what I'll do is I'll use my memory drive. The memory drive one will work from here. You want to use it now? Yeah. I really wanted to show you this. We need to look at these three issues for the future. One is the circular, making Mumbai circular. Second is climate resilience, if you want to think of the future. And then how do we govern that? Next, just keep moving. So this is the reason why I think that Mumbai is so well governed. Because we talk a lot, Mumbai is 475 square kilometers, but the actual buildable, let's keep going next. Actual buildable part is just 100 square kilometers. Next. So the rest of Mumbai, unlike the trees, is only trees. So we have 300 square kilometers of Mumbai's 400, which is green. Neither New York nor any other city has this. And it's only about 100 square kilometers, which is buildable. And this is our Mumbai. And the next one, what you see is the dark brown things. Those are the people who live in slums. The light one. So if you see closer to the green areas, because we want to live in elite Mumbai with 2 FSIs, 1.5 FSIs, so we push all our workers into those areas where they are far away and in open, encroachable green plots. So all those dark brown ones around Sanjay Gandhi National Park, around the creeks, are the slum percentages, which don't need to be slums. Next. So yeah, where are the slums? Mostly along the river banks, in the forest areas and all, where we push people to. Next. So coming back to your, keep going next. Yeah. So yeah, we stop here. So this is the shocking counterintuitive thing about India. So in Mumbai, for example, we have only 11% area under open spaces, while New York has 33% despite having 15 FSI.
Wow.
So how does that happen? Huh? You increase the font.
Repeat what you said.
I said that Mumbai we have only maximum 3 FSI averaged across, while New York has 15. But it has got 33% area under open spaces, and we have only 11%. So, and if you see across large Indian cities, private open spaces dominate. So 50 to 60% is private open spaces. What are private open spaces? You see this merchant building or the buildings along facing the sea. As we go around the Marine Drive, you have compounds in front. You go to New York, none of the buildings have compounds with open space. That's the desert of Mumbai. A desert, that is precious land, not put to anybody's residential use, not put to any slum dwellers' residential use, but even children don't play in those open spaces. It's just there because we like to look at it that way. And we happen to have inherited this part of Mumbai. So New York doesn't have it. You just push this building volume straight on the street, but ensure that the streets are so big that people can walk and live on the streets in terms of community life. Huh? Footpaths, yeah. So the open space includes footpaths and streets, all of it. But another thing I wanted to tell you about open spaces is, open spaces are not gardens. They're important, but they're not the key. The key open space in any city, like in a human body, Sanjay talked about a human body, is about our circulatory system. What does our circulatory system do? It carries blood and oxygen and nutrition. What is that part of a city? Roads, but not the surface roads. What's below the roads? From your technology, the fibers to water supply, to drainage, to underground metros. And that can't go under buildings. That can't go under private open spaces. That has to go under public, and we don't allow that to happen. Because we impose town planning norms and fight and write petitions, oh, the slum dwellers are getting too close buildings, without understanding that unless we widen the streets and keep all of it there, that's where the city lives. And most cities have done that, but we don't allow it. Mostly the elite don't allow it. That's my point. Next. So again, on this coastal road is a outside solution for India, for Mumbai. We didn't need coastal road if we weren't all there in our way of mutually cancelling each other's decisions. Because we cancel each other's decisions, so we have to find a solution outside, which is destroying nobody's vested interest. But even that which destroys nobody's vested interest destroys somebody's viewpoint, the building's viewpoint. So those are the people who go to court, and so we stopped. See, now what does coastal road add? Coastal road adds roughly 500 hectares to open spaces and public spaces of Mumbai, which is starved for space where people can just walk around and move. And it adds without pulling down other people's private buildings. Because otherwise you can do that in Mumbai, that you have to pull down the most densely built buildings. It adds that. But we still want to go to court after your Mumbai First said that that should be done. And we held it up, and even the High Court gave an order cancelling the whole road. Fortunately, the Supreme Court restored it back. So public interest litigations about not in my backyard. We want it. We want good streets, but not where I can see and get disturbed by it. So this, for me, this is the biggest problem of Mumbai. It's not there in many other cities. Next. There's something which we did for the coastal road. We can go on next. Yeah, that we use eco-concrete. Now we talk about pollution. You said you're right. Mumbai is one of the second highest polluted cities. But that is despite a counterintuitive truth. What is the counterintuitive truth? Just look at the number of trees in Mumbai versus in London, versus in Tokyo, versus in New York. And this is not counting Sanjay Gandhi National Park trees. And if you were to climb that, we would be one of the greenest cities. And New York doesn't have wild animals living in wilderness in the middle. So despite that, next, Mumbai is the second most polluted among the large cities. I'm not talking about the Lahores of the world. So I'm talking about really the big ones. So it's very high. But why is it polluted? And will more planting of trees make it less polluted? That's where our problem is. We know our problem and we throw a solution at it. Next. The solution is only this. Whether it's London or New York, people don't travel in the middle of the city, even if you're an executive of Goldman Sachs, by your car. Here, everybody travels by car or by motorcycle. And what is you can go to the next one. This is the number of cars increases. So, no, just go back, sorry. So, what you would see from here is, it's the car-based pollution. Forget, there's no industrial pollution or hardly any in Mumbai proper now. It's only personal vehicular pollution which is killing Mumbai and also congesting the streets. And the only way people can move fast on cities is not by private transport, only by public transport. That's the biggest truth that we have to learn. If we get our public transport right, we got everything right. The most capitalist country, United States of America, in all its large cities, people love cars there. People own 5 cars. But in New York, you travel by the metro. It's faster, cheaper, and less polluting. It's less polluting by 1/10. That is, for the same passenger kilometer that you travel by a metro with others, and you travel the same distance by a car, you pollute far more. So this is what we need to do, and not think about planting trees or cutting trees. It's not even part of the issue. It's part of an emotional issue, what we like to talk about next. So this is what we did actually. We just reduced the fares of best, and the best ridership moved up to 50-60 lakhs. We also privatized the bus. Next. Next. And we also about technology, that if you can make buses predictable, that is, if we know, like in London, when you can reach, it's not easy because of the traffic and parking. If you can reduce private transport, we reduce parking on the streets. Therefore, buses can reach their destinations on predictable times. Therefore, you can move more people into buses. And of course, once the metro comes, then the two together working can push some more people into public transport, which the British did it when they made the suburban trains. And after that, we just built private cars. Next. This is about trees. We don't need to plant trees. We just need to plant Miyawaki plantations in private layouts, which we are doing now in large numbers. Next. This is what I wanted to talk about water. Actually, I wish I could show you that film. So Mumbai brings water all the way from 200 to 300 kilometers away. And it's got large dams. It's the cleanest water in the whole country. That is, Mumbai city water is, the municipal water is the cleanest water. It's not by us. It's certified by the government of India. Why so? Why so? So one is that we take it at the source. We don't have the misfortune, let's say what Daund or Sholapur has, that you have a city like Pune sitting on top of you, which puts all its sewage into the river, and then the next city. Let's look at Delhi. Delhi gets all the sewage from Hardwar, from and they have to build. We get nobody's sewage. We stop the water where it rains, in Bhatsa Dam, in the Virar Dam, and we get the cleanest water that is possible. We just put it by gravity to us. So it's a wonder of geography, and unfortunately also a wonder of what the British thought of at that time. Of course, we didn't stop at what the British did. British only made 3 lakes, and that was finished. I mean, that would have just taken care of. Mumbai Municipal Corporation, their engineers, Mr. Tinaikar, Mr. Suktankar, they added new dams which you can't imagine. And all those dams, that's why I wanted to show you that film, bring water. But that's not the right thing any longer. So what we are doing is, we use so much of water, that is 3,700 water, but we also put 60% of it back as drain water. Because every amount of water that we drink, 70% becomes black and grey water. So most cities are now recycling it, including Singapore. But we are making new dams, taking away water from tribals in faraway places to get fresh water, instead of recycling our wastewater. So that's one thing that we can do. We were trying to work on that. But those are the sort of issues that we all want us to raise together, and not
also
about...
cheapest, I think.
It's also cheapest, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll just go for one more and we'll stop.
Yeah, okay.
Let's not go on waste management. Just keep going. Yeah. I'll end with this issue, which is about climate change. Yeah, just go on. Just keep going back. So the maximum problem about climate change is that, just go back to the last one. Yeah, so the fact that traditional solutions don't solve problems anymore in Mumbai. Traditional solutions are making stormwater drains wider and having water pumped out. And we have the best. It won't work now because, as you can see from this, that 40% of the rainfall is received in 3 days. The stormwater drains are not calculated. They were calculated by the British to get rain over 40 days or 50 days. So, and you cannot increase stormwater drains to make the rainfall. So what has Japan done? Many cities have faced that problem. I'll end with this. Yeah, so Japan has ensured that all of its surplus water goes under the river and it's stored. So there's a parallel river system below. So they don't need floodplains because there are no floodplains. See, a lot of environmentalists do petitions, oh, Mithi River, it's all been tried. Yeah, it's there because you have 15 million people staying here. You can't throw those 15 million people away. So Japan also realized the same problem. They can't throw away its 22 million people. But they took the river underground and we can do that. I'll just end with the last, keep going. I don't want that. Yeah. So I'll just end with this as saying that if we really believe that we can have a dream which is to make Mumbai what its true spirit is, we need to be cohesive, be trust in decision-making processes, and then stick to the decision-making by itself. Whether it is a single person who's elected, it's possible, or whether it is a general body which has worked reasonably well, it's the lateral, multiple, uninformed intrusions in the decision-making process which has pulled Mumbai back for so long. So that's all. I'll end with that.
Come back to this point, but maybe we should...
Can you just make one point? If you don't remember, so may not remember, Sanjay will remember. One of the first recommendations of Mumbai First nearly 20 years ago was to the then Prime Minister that we need a mass transport system in Mumbai. It was, in fact, we don't take credit for it.
But when you recommend it and when you start building it and when somebody goes to court, Israel doesn't allow that.
Yeah.
All of us tolerate them. There is one Mr. Stalin who went to court continuously. And he's a very good friend of mine. I know him since he was a thing. But he went right up to Supreme Court to stop 100 or 8,000 trees being cut. And all the trees are exotics from Malaysia. They're all rain trees. They're not indigenous trees. They need to be cut in any case. And he went to Supreme Court and High Court set aside the order. And none of us, we all sat watching. So that's the thing, we need to stick to decisions as a city and ensure that they don't go here and there. Then we'll have it.
All right.
Okay. Can I just ask one question on this, particularly to you? Now, do you feel that the carrying capacity...
Yeah, sorry.
No, the question which I had is that, do you feel that the Mumbai city is working well beyond its carrying capacity? Because when I was Chief Secretary, we had a census done that every day almost 528 people come into Mumbai.
Yeah.
And that's the extent of it. There are about 1 crore and 10 lakh commuters every day, and there are about 30,000 persons who are at 1 square kilometer.
Yeah.
When it is like this,
It is.
don't you think that it is something which creates a lot of discord which exists between the form of the city and the aspirations of the inhabitants?
So I'll just answer that, then we'll open it up. I'm sorry to have monopolized this issue so much. So, the way we manage Mumbai now with all our restrictions, yes, Mumbai currently is far beyond its carrying capacity. But think of the reverse. Think of the fact that if those 500 people or 1,000 people are not coming in, where would they be staying? They would be staying in Thane. They would be staying in the suburbs of Kalyan. They would be staying in Karjat. And today there is some forests and some agricultural land in Karjat. But all of that land will get continuously urbanized, like what's happened to Kerala along the coast, which is a continuous urban zone. No country in the world does it. Japan has got a population density higher than India. It's got 78% under forests. How does it manage 78% with having as many people as India has per square kilometer? Because it concentrates facilities, water, sewerage, residential, and innovation. Most important is innovation. When a lot of people live together, technology comes together, people's minds work as chemistry together. You don't spread them out like this just because few elite want to live their old Mumbai. So that's the thing. So Right now it's beyond carrying capacity, but Mumbai's carrying capacity is generally far more potentially higher because of the availability of water, because of the availability of port. If we were to leverage the 88,000 crores which are lying unutilized and leverage the underutilized lands of BPT, textile mills and all of that, and house every single Mumbaikar, not in a slum, but in a proper sewage connected house. Sorry for having dominated.
Just in this, on the mic.
Oh, sorry. On that note, let me just ask Mr. Haribhakti. So Mumbai is known to have a huge budget, and Mr. Pardeshi spoke about it. We know it's bigger than a lot of states. Yeah, and several states. But yet you can see that it has multiple challenges, especially on providing public services. Yeah. What seems to be the thing that is missing in this scenario? Because we heard a lot of things which are really positive. I'm really happy to
I'll
hear.
respond afterwards. Let everybody
But
else have
so
a-
I just
yeah,
wanted
yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Haribhakti to respond to that.
So my take on what Mr. Pardeshi said is as follows. What he has given is the potential. What we are talking about is creating that potential using digital first ideas. And these should and can be married. So in my view, there are three things that Mumbai, again, based on what he said, it just provoked all of this in my mind. Number one, if we can do the entire slum rehab
Yeah.
program by bringing in 3D printed building technology. So we don't have cement dust flying around in the city, and we do quick, continuous, digital, tailor-made homes. The cost of making such a home, 1 bedroom each, is far less per square foot than what we are willing to spend today. That is my first big recommendation for Mumbai First and whoever else to take it forward. Second, we must push for EV vehicles so dramatically and create EV charging infrastructure at huge scale and make sure that we are the first to adapt autonomous vehicles. So if we go for EV and autonomous vehicles, we will need 1/6 of the vehicles to carry twice the population of Mumbai today.
No, we need EV buses, not EV private vehicles.
And public mass transport.
Yeah.
Number 3 item. And there is where I was saying, Mr. Pardeshi, that we need to stop announcing new projects and finish what
What
is
have in hand.
in hand.
That's
That is the idea that I was pushing for. And these are the three things that will completely and dramatically change Mumbai's prospects. I know we have this fantastic hoard of water. I know that, a small city like Madhukarai, we ran an experiment there from ACC. What we did is we transformed that city by citizen involvement. So that's what I love. If I take away the biggest thing from what Mr. Pardeshi said, we need to take charge of the governance of Mumbai and feel that we are responsible for it. Every citizen. It has now come down to that. And that is what NEOM is doing. What NEOM is doing is not adding to the carbon footprint. It will have zero. It is a born zero carbon footprint city.
You can't have a 1-0 if you build something against what nature builds. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. We can account for it.
I'm just repeating what their CEO is.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't know. I have not gone and done it. But this is what is the claim.
Just a follow-up question from what Nandita just now asked. So even earlier, what Praveen said that we have a lot of people criticizing large projects, but there underlying that is also a governance failure, right? So because people don't know what is happening, and the past don't give them the confidence that what is going to happen is really going to be yeah.
That's a genuine
So if at all we are able to get the governance right, we are able to inform people, get them in confidence. And do things, probably the opposition won't be there. I'll just give you an example. Suddenly I found that there was an announcement made that there's going to be a bridge now between Narman Point and Cuff Parade. Nobody knows. Suddenly, the tenders were to be out. Nobody knows that where it's going to land, how it's going to look like, what's going to happen to that, how it's going to impact that place. We have no idea, right? And then people start questioning it.
Yeah.
Whose idea is it? What's going to happen? How much is going to cost? So I think that's the reason why people question it, and therefore we need to have a governance framework in place to see that people are taken into confidence. I think the question that I had with to Himanshu also is that when you also talked about economic growth and stuff like that, is there a governance mechanism available to us? Who talks about who decides on the economic future of the city? I don't think any mayor, any chief minister, any governor, or any municipal commissioner ever talked about the economic future. It just happened. Now, if that is to be done, is there a governance mechanism available for us? I'm not very sure whether it is there, and probably.
So I'll just sort of make one point on the last thing, which is that there are two things. One is the elected government for like 4 years or 5 years, or like an elected mayor, if you wanted to have, or the general body. That's one thing. And then there is a permanent body of citizens. Now, 15 million or 20 million citizens are too many to decide. Correct. So the way generally it works in very robust areas, Israel being an example, though it's still small, is like what you have like Mumbai First. But you have ALMs, that is area local management groups. And let's say you have 50 of them. You have a federal body. Now this federal body with Mumbai First facilitation comes up with a decision which has trade-offs. Please understand that there is no decision which is win-win. Every decision is a win-lose. You have to just ensure that the win is higher or the payoff is higher than what you're losing. So some people are going to lose. No change happens without some people not losing. But those who lose, we need to compensate them adequately, no doubt about that, and ensure that So this body, this federal body needs to be able to stay the course, to continue with these decisions for the long term, because they know it. You see, you pick up Tata Institute of Social Sciences professor from IIT, all of them know what we need to do for Mumbai for 10 years, 20 years. But who's there to allow the government to stay the course? And that part, very good social societies which have got good social capital, have built this and they push the government to do it. So governments come and go like a driver while these guys are continuously directing them to move ahead. We don't have it. We have a chaotic position that everybody contradicts each other. So we need to move from chaos to a held view, which is not the best view, but which is second best view, but which is implementable.
So, I think the first point is that it is not, I don't think that we have I don't think that we have a situation, really speaking, where there is no one really thinking of the city. I think the issue is perhaps the thinking is the thinking happening in the right levels and the right places? Yeah, decision-making level is one issue. For instance, there was it was part of the vision making for Mumbai that led to BKC. Because there was and from the 70s, from 75, I think you had the beginning of this realization that we have to move out of industry, for instance, and that happens through the state government. Now, the issue here is, of course, that the city itself is not politically adequate, and Mumbai is among the more politically powerful cities because compared to many other cities, vis-a-vis the state government. So I think so there is some such mechanism, but I agree that I think one important weakness lies at the level of the political leadership in the city, and this is not necessarily unique to Mumbai. We have seen that in all other cities also, where corporators on the one hand are not empowered. The city as a whole is not empowered politically. Corporators are even less, and they are also dealing with her everyday life, which doesn't let them actually think beyond their ward. Or pani and this, and they're stuck in that. And I think that's a big loss, because what that means is the power as well as the responsibility devolves upon only the bureaucracy, right? And bureaucracy, we know, is overstretched in so many government departments and
Responsible for it.
It's
not responsive to
they don't have, they cannot be. It cannot be, because we know the everyday life of a ward office. We look at it, and the kind of work they do to keep the city functioning, a city like Mumbai, is remarkable. So I think I have much that I agree with in Mr. Pardeshi's presentation, and it's actually very interesting that these ideas of what is right and that imagination is there, and we hear that very often. But where I still find something, I think the governance issue you spoke about, I don't think it is as simple as just letting people know. It's not a PR failure. I think to reduce it to a PR failure, I think we need to, I mean, this goes back to my point about who is really making the decisions, even visioning. And what do they know? It's a question I deeply care for. What does the planner know about the city? What does the municipal commissioner? The municipal commissioner actually knows much more because he or she is handling it at a certain level. But they are actually moving every 3-4 years. So there's no continuous knowledge of the city, and that too from different perspectives. So our political representatives are in a position to give you a perspective which is much more grounded and which is real. And civil society, I mean,
long term. Can think long term.
I think you were in Pune also, right? And I think the Pune example for me is very, very instructive. Because how does BRTS come into India? BRTS doesn't come into India because IIT Delhi or someone speaks of it. It comes into India because a civil society coalition pushes very hard for a sustainable transportation model. Not just, I mean, they realized they started by hugging trees and they realized that that was not the game. Okay? The game was really sustainable transportation, and they pushed very hard, did everything possible, and got with the municipal corporation to do
just
that.
30 seconds, I want
Sanjay,
to...
can I ask this? Somebody who's raising the hand. We can go back and forth if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So no, we'll come to the question.
We'll come to the audience question. We'll come.
I think we'll probably finish in another 15 minutes and then we'll open it up for...
So I just wanted to respond to Sanjay's idea of what's the governance framework available to the world. Pulling in from what Mr. Pardeshi said and what Manshu said, there's a new form of governance called DAO, which is decentralized.
Cryptocurrency type.
That's used in that, but that is what Mumbai city can get in terms of governance tokens. So then you are incentivated to do the right thing rather than trying to spoil what's going on by your governance tokens. So you become democratically engaged and invested in the good of the city.
That's a very good idea.
I just
I'm
want
going to slightly, move on to the next and to Mr. Premkumar, I want to ask a question. Like Praveen said, that not in my backyard, in the sense that everybody would like to have the best of facilities in their own houses, but not necessarily look after the surrounding areas. In a slightly larger sense, Mumbai city also is like that, right? Because if you look at the MMR region, we've drawn a lot of resources from the MMR. Water and the reason why it's cheapest is because you get it by gravity. You don't really have to pump it. So it's the cheapest form of water that you can get here in the city. All the kachra that gets generated in the city goes into the suburb, into the MMR region. So it's like, that we are keeping ourselves clean, but the MMR is really not getting the benefit of this. I just wanted to ask Mr. Premkumar, because he was also chairman of MMRDA, and he looked at it from a larger perspective. Do you think it's time for us to look at a governance structure not only for the city, the municipal corporation, but for the larger MMR region?
Yeah, I would put it in, like for instance, now the whole idea is to benchmark Mumbai into international standards. That's why we had that Vision Mumbai 2003 report, where we said that we should emulate what Shanghai has done. Now, if you look at Shanghai's history in 1987, it was absolutely, as they put it, a dimly lit, unpainted financial wreck. That was what it was, Shanghai at that time. But then they had a mayor called Zhu Rongji. They used to call him One Chop Zhu. Why they call him One Chop Zhu is that he is a nickname for cutting all sorts of red tape. Okay. So the first point is that you require a leader like that.
Yeah.
That irrespective of whatever plan you have, you require a leader. And that leader, I don't know whether it will come in terms of the political environment as it is today. Now, the other point which you had mentioned is about the MMRDA and all the other agencies which are there. Now, there are a lot of agencies. Now, we look to the BMC, Praveen, in terms of the DP which you prepare.
Yeah.
Now, you have a DP which I think goes up to 2034 or so, 2034. Now, you see the contradictions in that. If I might give you some examples. Now, there is a land parcel of about, I think, in 2017, 114 hectares from Oshiwara, BKC complex and Kurla.
MMRDA.
That was, given to
MMRDA.
MMRDA. I mean, that is one aspect of it. Then you have 966 hectares, which is controlled by the MBPT, BPT. And BPT, they were made as a special planning authority. And in their blueprint, they don't make any mention of the DP. So here you have an organization which is outside of the DP. And recently, in fact, BJP, they granted the status of a planning authority to MADA, state-run MADA, for
their
14,900 cessed properties, despite the BMC objecting to all this. So that is really the contradiction which happens, that although you have a DP which is meant for the entire city, you have various agencies which are conflicting amongst themselves, which don't allow us to do this.
That's right.
So that sort of coordination is very important. So the two things which I mentioned is, one, you require a leader like what you have in Shanghai. That is why we benchmarked ourselves. You might remember when Manmohan Singh was Prime Minister, we said that we'll do a Shanghai model, but we are nowhere near that. And the other thing is this, the contradiction which happens with so many agencies which are around, and that sort of coordination doesn't seem to be there, which is essential, I feel.
Do you think for the MMR now we need to have a leader like that, or for the city?
No, MMR is the planning authority now in that area. So they have
For the
full
region
powers
as a
for
whole.
that.
For the region as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just let's look at how this problem has been solved. One, the way Mr. Premkumar said, yes, you can get a leader, and New York had those leaders. You know, a lot of them came, and then they fixed New York, and then Mumbai also once in a while did get those types of leaders. But then you can wish for a leader. You cannot plan to get a leader, and Japan knows that. And Japan, if you'll see, has not had really great leaders, but Japan is still one of the greatest countries. So I'll tell you what they did with Yokohama. So Yokohama is nothing but Mumbai. It was one of their greatest port towns, and the type of port it was became irrelevant, just like BPT has become irrelevant in terms of now it's all container traffic which goes to the JNPT and to the Adani port. But Mumbai's strength was its port. So same thing happened to Yokohama. And Japan is it's like us, very conscientious citizens. Everything that you do which affects you or me, he can object and it's final. So what Yokohama did, they knew this, that they could never redevelop the Yokohama port with everybody's objections and suggestions. They passed an act which is called the Yokohama Development Act, which overrides every single law of Japan. Its only purpose is to develop that place to whatever the vision was. The vision is given by the citizens, Like port doesn't function, so it has to have residential, it has to have playgrounds, it has to have better education, maybe it has to have financial services. But nobody can pick up and say, oh, it's in the eco-sensitive zone of Sanjay Gandhi National Park, so you can't build out here. Oh, it's part of some Parsi land where you cannot make an underground metro, so you go to 2 years to court till you find out, no, it doesn't affect the Parsi temple. So all of these things they did away with one final act, and that's how Yokohama. The Japanese people tell us that if we hadn't done that act, we would still be struggling with it. So that is one type of solution which we need to think of major areas like Mumbai, where we think it through, take 2 years, 3 years of discussion, but then have that one regulation which overrides everything else, and then you work under that, rather than have so many contradictory reactive legislations for every problem which comes to you. I mean, I only had to push for the MHADA to become a planning authority. The reason was that I feel bad about it, but it happened actually during my time, because what BMC was doing, it wasn't allowing any redevelopment work for the MHADA old houses to happen, and we wanted the FSI there locked was 1 while it could go to 3, and poor people were suffering, and BMC was just sitting on the so we said the only way to do it is to give them the permission decentralized. So this was a reaction against this sort of thing. But if you have a regulation which controls all, maybe we can go, and we need not wait for a good leader.
I just want to supplement that by, I don't know if you recall when Rajiv Gandhi had come, he advocated that there should be a separate ministry for Mumbai, with a separate minister for Mumbai.
Yeah.
But that was never accepted.
It happened once it happened.
Subramaniam was
Yeah.
minister.
For 2 years.
Yeah.
No, facetiously, I must add,
Yeah.
we had recommended that Sanjay should be that person.
He was in a way not a minister, but we had put him as the CEO for Mumbai in a way.
Yeah.
But of course, then there were too many people.
No, and the industrialists wanted it to be like Delhi, Union territory.
Yeah. So I just want to say, that I'm a little, I'm facing certain cognitive dissonance. There are many things that I agree with, and but the direction that the conversation is going is also extremely alarming to me. And it's tied to my point about the imagination. I think the way we are speaking about Mumbai is as if it were a corporation, a company we have to manage. Okay, and we are using we are kind of wishing for a kind of thoroughgoing power to, with one diktat, one great leader, to do the right thing. And of course, I sympathize and I empathize with the need for doing the right thing. But we know that if we dream of this one powerful person who will set everything right, I think we are also likely to get one wrong decision, which can be devastating. And why do I worry about that? Even in a compromised power situation, where I think, and I fully share the frustration that everyone here who has great experience really more experience than I can ever imagine in governing, comes out of, with this weak power, we have created a city, we have pursued tracks of decision making which are contradicting each other. Right? And the contradictions are so intense that when we decided to build the 50 flyovers, the MMRDA's chief transport planner opposed it on transport planning logic grounds, right? And we went ahead, and now at a point at which we are actually, what is the big elephant in the room for us is climate change, right? Absolutely. And at that point, what we have in this compromised power situation is something like the coastal road, which really comes out of nowhere as a decision. Okay, so I think I would really urge for a more politicized, more conflict welcoming, and therefore participatory model of, an imagination of that's how a city is or is governed. You don't count people, as Jaime Lerner of Curitiba said. You count on people. And when they oppose you, I'm grateful to my students when they tell me something wrong. There's something wrong with what I'm saying, right?
So just I want to take on this issue. So you see, climate change is important, but it's not even, in my sense, not even half as important as the fact that 15 million Mumbaikars, 7 million live in absolute slum conditions, which is wretched beyond worst of the world. I've been to Brazil, I've seen their slums. Their slums have nothing to do with.
Yeah.
And by the way, almost every policy born out of our thoughtful process, I can prove it offline, is responsible for those people living in slums.
Yeah.
And actually, when we talk about a regulation, you see what you just talked about, having the print technology to build houses. It's not the speed of construction. It is the politics and the regulations involved in slum redevelopment, which requires so much of rent seeking to overrule so much of unnecessary interventions of so many authorities, which ensure that you can never get, like, probably it's a 5-year plan to get all 70 lakh people into, let's say, 10 lakh houses, which can be done in 5 years flat, and Mumbai can be slum free. But there's no lack of money. It's ensuring regulation isn't self-contradictory, and there is no Tom, Dick and Harry which can go to court for everything which says, oh, there'll be increased tuberculosis if you build too many houses. But the fact that they are living and the whole sewage is going inside, the situation is much worse now. We don't look at that. But somebody says, oh, there'll be tuberculosis if the houses are too close, or there will be no fire brigade which can go around if the roads are not that wide. So you can't develop half the Mumbai SRA plots. It's those issues which are blocking. It's not a lack of interest. And somebody needs to get into this and not give the big picture. So for me, getting the detail right is the real issue here.
I'll just throw a last question up before we open to the audience. The 74th Amendment, we're all familiar with. It empowers municipal governments, but yet many crucial decisions are in the hand of the state government. Mumbai awaits its municipal election now for a year. Yeah. What impact do you think this is happening on the effective governance and demographic representation of our city? And each of you can do a quick 1 minute,
1 minute.
before I
Yes,
because
I think, yeah.
we are all waiting for the BMC elections and things to start moving. And I mean, Imanchi can.
Well, yeah, I think it's unimaginable actually that we are in a city which is not running on a politically elected government. I think what I just said earlier, what we are missing clearly is real feedback from the ground about what is happening, what the issues are, and therefore what is being proposed as a plan of action. There is no intelligence coming in to shape that. I think that's a I think very self-evident fact, almost not
And
worth
do you think
discussing.
we are trying to use technology? We are all of us talking about technology and how are we using technology to get people participation, for feedback, for.
The tech. That's the other thing. Number of things here that I want to say is EV not the answer. NEOM terrible. The techno focus. I think we are looking at the wrong thing. It's just something that we are fascinated by. Of course, technology. We are all using email. So in that sense, technology will move, and we have to work with it. But we cannot pin our hopes on that. It is at the level of governance. And governance, I want to come back to something that as scholars, for us, governance is different from governing. Very different. And governance is what actually Mumbai sees in the fourth seat in the second class compartment, where laterally we manage, or the streets, in spite of the hawkers, we are able to walk through, and it works. In fact, it's a safe street. So we work both ways, and I think we are looking at the wrong thing. Unfortunately, we have been looking at the wrong thing. We have been celebrating Chandigarh as the great planned city. I'm not even sure it's a city, right? So I think we have to look away from these preconceived ideas about what constitutes a good city, good infrastructure, etc., and look at people and engage people and what is the ground reality. I think that is what.
It's a good point. I think you make a distinction between government and governance.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Well, I tend to completely disagree. My take is that if we can get a plan, and I don't care who prepares it, I don't care if 20 versions of that plan are made, but I would like to see decentralized, autonomous governance happen in Mumbai. And I would like to see that the leadership comes from wherever it stands up and says, I'm going to take the call. It's just not possible to envisage one great leader who will come from somewhere and be able to, with the magic, change everything for us. I think the time has come for us to own up the responsibility. And I know that this city will find the way to be the visionary city that India aspires for in 5 years' time, if we can all come together. I have no doubt about it.
Now, what you mentioned about decentralization of powers and functionaries and having local self-government is exactly what it's the decentralization functionaries of local self-government is exactly what the 74th Amendment of the Constitution envisages. Now, you look at all the authorities which now, aside of the BMC, has been put forward by the government. You have the SRA, you have the MADA, you have the MSRDC. In each of these bodies, it is either the minister or the chief minister who's the head.
Yeah.
So where is local self-government in all this? So that is, you see, what inhibits local self-government is the fact that to create more probably political control over these bodies, you have ministers or the chief minister sitting at the head of these bodies. So really you can't envisage any local self-government in some of these bodies, which today is running. I mean, they are running very good projects as well, and they are some of the go-to. Like today, it is MMRDA, and which is really getting many of the good projects. They are also doing the Dharavi project now, MMRDA. So that is my view on this.
I'll just say one thing that I wanted to show you. if left to itself, see, Mumbai has reached a level of optimization when it's at operational detail. But when it's at the strategic level, because there are too many heads getting into it, it doesn't come. I want to show you what it does operationally, because all of us don't know it. And for me, it's very, can you just show that? It's about, just look at this about water. It's a real story.
ये है मिस्टर संदीप गवारे,
He's a really water engineer. I mean, a real
बीएमसी में सब इंजीनियर है। काम इनके लिए खाली काम नहीं है, इनकी सर्विस है। बेटी की बर्थडे पार्टी छोड़कर प्लांट पर चले गए। ये मैं हूँ, मिसेस गवारे।
कतरा कतरा भरे तेरी खुशियों का दरिया।
ये कहते हैं नॉन स्टॉप मुंबई को पानी भी नॉन स्टॉप मिलना चाहिए। हंस के काम करते रहते हैं ताकि पूरी मुंबई को नल खोलते ही साफ पानी मिले।
प्यास बुझाऊं चाहे जो भी हो जरिया, इस सफर में बूंद बूंद बढ़ता रहे तू।
हीरो है, वाटर हीरो।
चलता रहे तू, बहता रहे तू, चलता।
इनकी तरह मुंबई को साफ पानी पहुंचाते रहने के लिए बीएमसी के 30,000 कर्मचारी जुटे रहते हैं। तो आप भी पानी बचाएं, और अगर आपको पानी की चोरी का पता चले तो प्लीज इसकी खबर बीएमसी को दें, ताकि पानी खराब ना हो और मुंबई स्वस्थ रहे। बाकी संदीप गवारे तो यही कहते हैं,
मैं मुंबई के लिए कुछ भी करेगा।
My point was that if you allow similar autonomy for planning, Mumbai will give us similar result. But the planning, as he rightly said, is the chief minister, the multiple committees which finally sit on it and then decide how the land should be used for. Sorry. So I'm just saying that what Mumbai does. Can you show this? What Mumbai does for its operational things, we don't see it every day. That's why this film was made. We just take it for granted. It's very difficult. The water engineer of Kobe committed suicide after the 5th day of the Kobe earthquake because he couldn't restore the water supply. Because everything is so blueprinted that he could not. Can you go to the next one? But Mumbai is different because we do both jugaad and very efficient stuff. But we don't allow that to happen in development planning because today housing problems of the poor are not operational issues. It's not implementation issues like you getting the right cement and concrete. It is getting this part right, which is that nobody to interfere with that Gaware and he does his job right.
That is the solution.
So, and that is possible. You think the people who are managing the leasehold properties in Mumbai and the ward officers, they know the solutions. There could be corruption. It can be cleaned up with a lot of oversight. But it needs autonomy and trust to allow that to happen.
Okay, should we just open that?
ये है श्री कांतिलाल बाबरिया, बीएमसी में सफाई कर्मचारी है। मुंबई कर की हर मॉर्निंग क्लीन हो इसलिए अपने हाथ मेले करते हैं। बोलते हैं मुंबई से गंदगी दूर तो बीमारी दूर।
सूनी सूनी गलियों को तेरी सजाओ,
हम सब त्योहार मनाते हैं, उसके बाद मुंबई को ये संभालते हैं।
ख्वाबों से तेरे मैं धूल उड़ाऊं, मैं खुद को चमकाऊं तेरा कर।
ये मैं हूँ कांतिलाल बाबरिया की बेटी
राहें चला चल पाले तू।
और ये है मुंबई के सफाई वाले। इनके जैसे 40,000 सफाई कर्मचारी हर हालत में मुंबई को साफ रखते हैं। हमारी भी जिम्मेदारी बनती है ना कि वेट और ड्राइवर्स अलग अलग रखें। तो मुंबई आप बस इतना कर दो, बाकी पापा तो यही कहते हैं।
मैं मुंबई के लिए कुछ भी करेगा।
राहें चला चल पाले तू मंजिल।
Okay, should we? Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Should we open it to the audience? Anyone with a question? The gentleman.
Somebody wanted to ask
Want-
a question earlier. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. After seeing these two clips, sir, thank you very much for highlighting municipal corporation's efforts. I have been a municipal engineer, sir, so I got very emotional actually. So the answer lies in the citizens themselves. The point of ALM, if eminent people like you take efforts to form the ALM in each of the 27 wards, 24 wards of Mumbai city, and like a gram panchayat, if we decide twice a month, if we sit together and decide what is to be done for the ward, what is good for the ward, and a majority decision, then the question of somebody going to court, or somebody objecting and bringing a stay will not arise. If you function like a gram panchayat in our localities, but the ALM should be headed by eminent people like you, assisted by knowledgeable people in those streams, like say if you say water or solid waste or say gardening or wildlife, like Mr. Burte, right? Sorry.
Burte.
Eminent experts like him, bureaucrats like you, sir, Premkumar Saab. If all of us then sit together and decide what is good for the ward, Mumbai will become a heaven. It's a very simple solution, sir. The legislations are in place. We are ruled by rules and circulars.
Sorry, can I just say,
Yeah.
ask your question, please? Is there a
Yeah,
question?
I wanted to, I said that, can the ALMs be strengthened?
Sure, got it.
How can they be strengthened?
How can we strengthen that? Do you want to take that?
I would like to just add here, sir. In between, there was a lot of activity going on for strengthening the ALMs. There's a legislation in place. There's a parliament resolution in place, as you have said, 74th Amendment. But what happened is that the elected representatives passed a resolution at their level saying that these people have elected me for the ward as a corporator, so I will decide what is good for them. So there's no need to call eminent people like you to sit in the ward meeting and decide whether there should be a panpoi or there should be a garden or there should be a wildlife zoo.
Sure.
So give it aside. No need. I am the corporator. I will decide for the ward.
Okay.
Now
So,
this is wrong.
So, Mr. Premkumar, do you want to
And
answer?
getting a
What
Superman to solve the problem, he will become a autocrat.
No,
Yeah.
most
What-
of these ALMs have become defunct.
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons for that is during the COVID,
Yeah.
there was no activity as far as the ALMs are concerned. And now mostly they have become defunct. If you see, if you take a census of it, there is hardly any of the ALMs which are functional today. And now one has to revive it in terms of various, that societal block which is there.
Sure.
You need to enthuse them to come back into the ALM system now
Sure.
in Mumbai.
Yeah, you want to go?
Can I just say this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can say that people like you, then Mr. Ratnakar Gaikwad, so many others, actually, Mr. A.K. Jain, helped the ALM become what it is.
Yeah.
But there are as many people who are the municipal commissioners who destroyed the ALMs. So how do
My
we make
predecessor did it by a fiat.
a sustainable
Yeah. So the one issue that he mentioned, we need to sort it out. It's a genuine one. You see, you can't put the person who lost the election to the sitting corporator as a member of the ALM. This is the one common mistake which happens. You have to put a ordinary non-political person. Then that corporator is very happy to work with the ALM. What I found, including in Pune, that if a corporator won the election, then the guy who came second, he sits on the ALM and he starts saying, so he says, I have won election against him and who is he to tell me what to do and he's going to become strong. So that's one thing we need to avoid. If we can avoid that and get genuine ordinary citizens on it and non-political people, then the corporator will work with ALMs, which we find quite good. So this is one rule to follow.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry, just the mic is with him. Do you? Sorry, the mic with him. Yeah, please. Please.
Hi, my question is primarily for Premkumar sir and Pardeshi sir.
Kindly identify yourself.
Yeah, my name is Rohit Lahoti. I'm working as a consultant. I'm working with the government for past 2 years. So my question mainly is around this whole intersection of politics and governance, right? So often, like you talked about the 2003 McKinsey report, right? Converting Mumbai into Shanghai. So it's been almost more than 18, 19 years. We still talk about making we still have those world class aspirations, how something needs to be more monumental, right? And that is the gap often what needs to be done by bureaucracy versus what the aspirations are of the minister they are reporting to. So how that aspiration mismatch needs to be thought of, because often what is needed versus what is done. For example, a simple example, when the recent Honorable Prime Minister came, the whole streets were covered by G20 billboards to hide the quote unquote slums, right? And that's still being talked about even after 20 years. So what do we do about, like, how do we look at this issue, this mismatch of aspirations between bureaucracy and politics?
Yeah, let me try and attempt to explain this. In fact, I was, when that Shanghai thing was recommended to the government, it was accepted and everyone looked at it as something which will benchmark Mumbai to industrial standards. But unfortunately, it remained on paper. There was, I remember, there was a press conference, and outside of the formal press conference, some of the press people asked me as to what is happening on all this. Okay. So then I tried to tell them of a little story. I mean, it's a little anecdote. There was a rat which was continuously being assaulted by the cat. So the rat went and asked somebody as to how do I see that I'm not being assaulted by this particular cat. So they said that you go and ask this question to the owl. So the rat went and asked the owl, how do I escape from this rat, from this cat on all this? The owl said it is very simple. All that you have to do is you become a cat. So the rat thought, oh, wonderful. And thought of it further. They said, how do I become a cat? So I had to tell the press falas that this Shanghai thing which we had tried to envisage was just something which we thought will happen. So when they asked me all this, I said that it is like me being the cat. I mean, I just had to say that this had to be done. Whoever implements it is somebody else. So that is where it remained as it is. But over a period of time, that was taken as a benchmark in terms of improving the city, but much needs to be done even today. And Praveen, you may take it over from this as to how it will.
I think it's well.
I think if I may just add, this Shanghai model was being wrongly. What the doctor said was, I think then Prime Minister that said was, at the moment people will talk about Mumbai city, they talk about Shanghai. But I would like Mumbai to be in 5 years' time, people should not talk about Shanghai, should talk about Mumbai is that point. So it was not a question of we want to be Shanghai, but we want people should talk about Mumbai and not compare it with Shanghai.
I mean, for me, it's a very simple plan. You can just break it down into just 3 or 4 actionables. So there are 70 lakh people living in slums. In 3 to 4 years, our current regulations, including SRA and various things, can convert them into livable, water-connected, sewage-connected houses. What it takes, it needs to happen. Second is, we don't need to bring water. We need to recycle all the water in underground storage and use that water in a continuous way. And third, the point which Sanjay mentioned, we generate per day so much of tonnage of waste, and lot of society is now segregated, but it doesn't matter if it's segregated because we need to use the segregated waste separately. Sometimes we just mix it back again. So the segregated waste, the biological part can be brought back as biogas and the non-biological part can be recycled as Pune is doing. If we do these 3 things, Shanghai, Shanghai, that's all that Mumbai needs. And I forgot the last 4th point is mass public transport, which is allow the plan of these metros and the underground metro to go through, because without metros, see, it's just not metros, it's also fibers, it is stormwater drainage, it is sewage drainage. All of them get right of way along these things. When all of this comes together, Mumbai as people is good enough. Now, I was just doing an innovation survey for public services for the Capacity Building Commission, and we got 350 applications and we shortlisted 15. And a friend of mine, Gyanendra Badgaya, after he read the 15 innovations, he found that all of those 15 innovations were riding on one meta innovation of India. And what is that one meta innovation? It's the public stack, that is the Jam Trinity. So the telephone linked to your fiber, linked to your account, linked to your Aadhaar. So these three was the meta ecosystem which enabled from Kokrajhar district of Assam to a district in Jammu and Kashmir to somebody in Maharashtra to do literally 300 innovations which we know of. What is the conclusion here? You get these three things right for Mumbai and let Mumbai be itself. That is, you can't allow people to live in slums at all, and it's in our hands. You can't waste so much water and push it into the sea and bring new water continuously. And you can't put so much waste in MMR. You have to recycle it back. And you can't allow people to own cars and travel on public roads, occupying public space for private benefit. They have to move in public. Do these four things, Mumbai takes care of itself.
My question is to Mr. Pardeshi. I am Srirang Bechu. I am a doctor by profession. Basically, we know that pollution, air pollution is a major problem now. And now as a CEO of Mitra, I wanted to ask you a very specific question. Are you going to advise the government to take difficult decisions for this, such as maybe use the coastal road only for electric buses entirely? And this can be transformational. Such decisions could be transformational, and you will be in a position to address this in the next 2-3 years. Are you willing to take such decisions?
There are two things. One is that firstly, I have not joined as CEO Mitra, so that's an aside. Second thing is, like everything which appears as a truth is an untruth. So I have learned this in a very sad way. So electric buses in Mumbai doesn't matter because 60% of the power of Maharashtra comes from coal generation. Yeah. So you have local, you have a local pollution-free atmosphere at the cost of rest of Maharashtra. So the solution is in the solarization of our power generation, not on electrical thing. Having said that, yes, when we got the new buses, the new 1,000 which are leasehold buses on private leases, they're all either gas or electrical buses. So yes, we should move on to that. And of course, the coastal road can become a very good public mover for it, but the metro will take care of it. The metro is the real one too. The coastal road, unfortunately, will still remain a private person's usage, but the important thing is it will push away a private transport from where all of the ordinary citizens need to live, which is on the ordinary streets of Mumbai. And the through traffic will go there, which is a good thing for the rest of Mumbai, which will become more livable. So don't think of it as a elite thing. It adds to Mumbai's capacity.
Yeah, Vishal, your question, and then we'll have to Vishal, you can go.
I'm really surprised that everybody is waiting for so long. I mean, I'm surprised. But if you want another 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we can go ahead.
Yeah, Vishal.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll keep it very quick. I'm Vishal. I have one comment, one suggestion, and one question. My comment is very simple. If you want to be cynical, you can go back from here listening to and humming the song with Johnny Walker hummed 67 years back in 1956. "Ae dil hai mushkil jeena yahan," right? That song still stands the way it is for Mumbai. That is my comment. My suggestion is when we do tendering in the city of Mumbai, can we follow the process that we follow for projects like you have Ganesh Utsav, you choose the best bundle and give them the prize like that. If let's say you have 4 wards and you have 4 paint companies which the government wants to give a tender to, give them those 4 wards, say that you do your beautification the way you want, and basis how people perceive it, you will get the piece. And my question is, 6.7 million square feet is the square footage of the CBD of Mumbai. That is Fort Nariman Point and Balad Estate, right? 10.3 million is BKC. If we want to revive Nariman Point, what can be done? Because there is strata ownership, and there's huge potential after the coastal road is done, after the Trans Harbour Link is done. That part of the city can be, made beautiful, right?
PPT is done.
Correct. So which governing?
There's a plan for it.
And what happens to Nariman Point, the 26 buildings of Nariman Point? I mean, they can be made into skyscrapers.
There is so much vacant land in BPT.
Okay.
Sorry.
Right. So can we just, yeah, sorry, would you like to?
Avishana from Mumbai Mobility Forum. One of the organization which was formed, UMTA, was for basically coordinating all the transport, this one in that. Unfortunately, it has not functioned in this. And one of the points which now you will be heading, okay, I think maybe we can look at that. How can we have that single point, this thing, at least a coordination among all, metro, BST, taxis, etc. Today, because there is no coordination, that is one of the major issues.
Right. Okay. We'll just collect all the, these are comments, so we'll just get the comments. Yeah.
We can just go
Yeah.
Let anybody speak.
Sorry, would you like to? Yeah.
Hello,
We'll
sir.
come to you. Yeah.
My name is Tushar Patil. My question to you, Pardeshi sir, is you have given the example of United Kingdom where there is direct election of mayor is there, directly elected mayor is there. So what will happen if we elect a mayor in India directly, and how it will improve the governance of a city?
I will actually, this is a very interesting one, and actually Praveen is the right person to answer. I remember we had, no, I won't answer the question, but we used to discuss this quite a lot. And when he was with the chief minister that time, he had got all the municipalities to have directly elected mayors. And some of the finest minds from the society became the mayors. Now they also have Gram Panchayat. So why don't you just say?
No, I think what Maharashtra is doing in a very good way. See, finally, it's a crisis of leadership. And crisis of leadership is not that there are no leaders. There are systems which block leaders. There are many systems that we have to discuss them off-site. But one of the ways to create a pipeline of leadership. Did you know who was Mr. Obama before he became president? The pipeline of the United States created Obama from nowhere. He was just a senator. There were thousands of debates. And a process happened which got Obama one of the finest leaders, global leaders, because there's a pipeline. We don't have that pipeline in India. How do we create that pipeline? Direct elections for local bodies is one of the best pipelines. By the way, Maharashtra did it. Now today, most of the new sarpanches of Gram Panchayats are directly elected. Secondly, and they're elected for 5 years, not for this rotating 1 year at a time, so that they have a time horizon. And similarly, A, B, C Nagarpalikas now for the fresh elections are all direct elections. Unfortunately, the previous government came and set aside that thing again. The new government again restored it back. But it needs civil society to ensure that such decisions are not reversed. Otherwise, we are just playing table tennis with it. So before we go to Mumbai, let's look at how we can at least keep the decisions which we have made, which is to have Gram Panchayats have a 5-year tenure. Can you imagine if the Prime Minister of India was elected by rule for 1 year and then every year it has to change? What will happen to India? But we don't think that, but we should impose that on Gram Panchayats. We did by rule that every year the Sarpanch had to change through a rotational basis. He had no interest in doing anything. Same for the Nagarpalika presidents. He had to change every year. So the last government, which has again been restored again, has pushed back to have directly elected leader. This will create a pipeline. I mean, we'll come to Mumbai much later, but let's do it for the smaller towns. That's my take.
Can you just come? I think.
Yeah. I'm Sharad Salyan, member of Humanist Center, Dahisar Boreli, Malad. In the BMC project, you can forward the proposal that there should be transparency and accountability. Like whatever projects are taken up, say for the footpath or for the road, the board should be displayed. That what is the cost of the project?
But it's required even now by law. If they are not doing it, you can enforce it by.
Yeah, and how much time it will take. So people will get aware of it.
It's there. One last question, and then I think everybody will, including us. I think we also have to go home.
My name is Sudhakar Malpe. I've been associated with IMC for the last 40 years. Thank you for this opportunity, because Sanjay Ubale also has a poster boy of Mumbai development is very well known. I have 3 things, because most important things were not at all discussed in today's this thing, though it is written as Governance Chronicle. What about the sea issues, corruption issues? Nobody talked about it, because this is the biggest hindrance of Mumbai development. 8,500 crore rupees only for Mumbai road development. Is there any other city has this budget? No. In fact, we are so fortunate today. We have Tata Institute professor is there. 20 years back, Tata Institute instituted agree with this. Municipal corporation knows about this.
Can we just
So,
quickly
no,
just
no,
make the-
because since you have
Yeah.
give me 1 minute.
Sure.
Today, 800 rupees is paid by a sandwich maker at one of the popular road. The fellow comes and collects it. He says, ये मेरा पॉकेट में नहीं जाता है, ये 5 लोग का पॉकेट में जाता है. So that is number one. Number two is that municipal election, Madam Soul, municipal election is just. What about the EVM, manipulable EVM? Today, we are not, citizens are not getting their representatives they want. EVM decides. Third most important is, Pardeshi repeatedly said that citizens should not go to the court. Where is the citizen right? Praja today, Praja has given the best of the things in municipal corporation. 1916, you dial today, within 24 hours, your issues resolved by Mumbai Municipal Corporation. These are the things which court has given us. Supreme Court today doesn't allow us to file public interest litigation. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we'll not, but just 2 minutes. We'll just close this. But I think what emerged from the discussion was, between our aspirations and where we are, the sticking point there is governance. So it again highlights the same issue, that if you want our aspirations to be met, we need to get our governance right? So, and we discussed what are the various steps available. I will stop here now. I'm going to request Nandini to quickly propose a word of thanks.
So, on behalf of Mumbai First, I would like to express my gratitude to our eminent speakers for this discussion, Mr. Shailesh Haribhakti, Mr. Praveen Pardeshi, Mr. R.M. Premkumar, and Dr. Sumanshu Bhutte. We are grateful for you to participating in today's event and providing a highly enriching insight in Mumbai and its governance. A bit about Mumbai First. Through our missions at Mumbai First, we aim to encourage more deliberations on how this city could be made better to invest, live, and work more in. We believe that through conscious citizen participation and adequate intervention from relevant authorities, Mumbai can maintain its glory as the business capital of India. Today's panel discussion on the governance evolution in the city and how to explore avenues for the future while spreading awareness has truly been enlightening. As Mumbaikar, it is our collective responsibility to take all the possible and necessary action to reinstate the glory of this metropolis, while also introducing newer ways to do the same, as highlighted and put forward by our distinguished speakers. As suggested by our panelists, we shall aim at bringing in better transparency, accountability, and increase in citizen participation in daily practices to make the city worth fighting for. My vote of thanks would be incomplete without thanking our chairman, Mr. Narendra Nair, for setting the tone of this panel discussion. Further, I would like to thank the president of IMC, Mr. Anand Singhania, for gracefully giving us this opportunity to be present here. I would also like to thank our executive board member, Mrs. Radhika Nath, and the managing team of IMC for actively helping our host this evening's session. I would also like to thank Sanjay Ubale, who flew in from Delhi last minute to be with us. And of course, our great team of Mumbai First, Ujjwal, Revati, Ashwini, all of you are here. Thank you very much for putting this all together. Thank you very much. And have a lovely evening.
Thank you.